What industry is struggling way more than people think? Story 1. Veterinary. On top of being notoriously low pay and high burnout, the hedge funds discovered us in the last 5 years. 90% of the local clinics in my area sold corporate, and workers and clients are increasingly unpleased. Corporates tried to push a human healthcare model because that works so well, increasing prices, block scheduling so vets see less patients in a day, and pushing insurance. Insurance is a great idea for emergencies, but last week nationwide, the #1 pet insurer dropped 100K clients from their coverage. So now we have a bunch of hedge funders trying to run medicine like a retail or food business. You can't and keep it ethical. Medical businesses should never be run like retail businesses, making people dependent on insurance, only for insurances to act like a business and drop policies for not being profitable. In a field with no protections and very unlikely to ever get protections, I literally save lives. I do the job of a nurse, a CNA, a phlebotomist, a dental hygienist, a rad tech, an ultrasound tech, a pharmacist, a surgical tech, a groomer, a behavioralist, and a janitor every day, and I could make more at Walmart. Story 2. I've been a professional video editor for the last 12 years and have never gone more than a week without a job. I've made stuff for many of the country's biggest brands and have a solid resume. For the first time in my life, I've been submitting resumes every single day for the last 4 months and have not had one interview. It's tough out there right now. Fingers crossed my luck takes a turn. Story 3. Production manager here. Going into month 3, but was also out of work Feb-April. I feel this so hard. The collapse of our industry has been a devastating blow, and I have been applying to a remarkable quantity of jobs. Probably at least 100 to 150 apps so far. Have had 3 interviews scheduled. On the second round of one of them, no idea how many weeks or how many rounds they'll pull me through. These companies know they have the time and resources to drag this process out. Working freelance production, I could get called about a job, interviewed on the spot, hired today, and start work tomorrow. So it is just a whirlwind to figure out. For whatever it's worth, I didn't start getting interview offers until I changed my resume to sound less filmy. I doubt that helps as an editor, but I thought I'd mention it. Wishing you tons of luck. It'll get better for us. It has to. Story 4. Musicians, artists. The middle class in general has been gutted over the last 20 years, and they were the first-line supporter for independent artists. So many smaller mom-and-pop venues were crushed during COVID, and either transitioned away from live music or closed entirely. You will still see a lot of people pushing their craft, but working-class, full-time artists in every medium have almost disappeared. Story 5. It's so crazy to read all these comments and personally remember a time when going to the mall, movies, bowling, arcades, restaurants, museums, art fairs, etc. were all regular activities, and people were excited for Teacher Celebration Week because they loved their teachers so much and couldn't wait to give them their gift, some homemade. And riding your bikes around with your friends to go sit in a field somewhere and talk was the highlight of your day after school. I kinda wish the world would just slow down. Story 6. Have had this conversation with my partner a few times recently. The idea that you used to be able to just, for example, go ice skating without it being something you need to save up for in the past is insane. Every activity is so highly monetized nowadays, and public spaces are so kid-unfriendly that I genuinely don't know what the crap kids are supposed to do anymore, other than scroll on their phones and play video games. Don't get me wrong, I love gaming and think it can be really valuable social time with friends, or even enriching if you're playing some good single-player games, but there's just nowhere physical for folks to just hang out without getting fleeced anymore. Story 7. I drive a ton for my job, but my car not a CDL. Anyway, I see dangerous behavior from truck drivers constantly now when I never even noticed poor driving previously. I felt obligated to report 2 of them in the past few months just because I knew they were going to hurt someone with their aggressive driving. Last year, I got caught in a bad snowstorm on my way from Minnesota to Cedar Rapids. Took me a few hours longer to get to my hotel. I was the only car out on the roads, just me and a bunch of semis. I was being passed by big trucks going way too fast and swerving to stay on the road. I was in awe of their boldness and couldn't believe I didn't see a horrible accident. But the next morning, on my drive from Cedar Rapids to Des Moines, I'm not exaggerating when I tell you I saw at least 5 semis off the road in a snowbank or a ditch, but I'm sure they were telling whomever that it was unavoidable, the weather's fault, nothing they could have done. Story 8. The healthcare industry in general in the United States is at 5 minutes to midnight. Healthcare professionals are beat down, overworked, underpaid, and it only gets worse. Working in healthcare gets worse every year, and it is becoming harder and harder to retain people. Some change jobs, but many leave the field altogether. Small community hospitals are closing. Others are getting bought up by major health systems and getting turned into assembly lines where everybody gets algorithm care instead of practicing medicine. Executives are getting rich, but the healthcare system in the US is getting dangerously close to failing. Story 9. Live music. People see big concerts happening and assume live music is doing pretty much as well as it always has. Not true. Small and medium-sized venues are struggling hard. Local bands are struggling hard. And small to medium-sized touring acts are struggling hard. People don't go and seek out live music like they did 20 years ago. Small live music bars with built-in crowds of regulars who would always show up to check out the band of the week used to be commonplace. Today they are very, very rare. Story 10. Veterinary medicine. I just got out. The average career is about 5 to 10 years before getting out for techs and assistants, etc. Emotionally, it's taxing. Not just because you're dealing with dying dogs every single day, but because management are all business people nowadays and don't know or give a crap about medicine and blame you for not hitting quotas or overspending on supplies, overtime, pay is low, especially considering student loans taken on to be a doctor or have a specialty. Not enough people are going into the field for the above reasons, and those who are, don't stay. Suicide rates are some of the highest by trade. We all know someone who has taken their own life, including me. I won't go into specifics for respect. And I don't know any vet med worker who isn't in therapy. Self-medicating with alcohol, getting too stoned to feel anymore with weed, or a mix of all three. This is just a brief list of problems. Story 11. I got my degree in agriculture business from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. One serious issue I see is the lack of interest from the next generation. I'm technically a young adult, and I'm basically the only person of my peers in this general career path. What makes this exceedingly shocking is I live in Tulare County, one of the greatest ag counties in the world. What often happens is younger people inherit their grandpappy's farm and sell it off to one of the big ag conglomerates, e.g. Sunkist, Sun Pacific, Wonderful. There aren't many small farmers left, and their plight is being forgotten. There are a host of other issues, but this is something no one seems to talk about. Many of them more controversial, like China's AG land ownership in the US, but I won't get into those without more prompt. Story 12. Every trade. They really think they can pay people $13 to $15 an hour, when the cheapest one-bedroom not in the ghetto is $1,200 to $1,400 a month. 2-year degree, $8K worth of tools to get started in mine. The old heads wonder why the new guys quit when they get paid flat rate and you're hiding their tools to FCK with them at work. This next generation wants to be paid a livable wage, not be abused, and to come to work. I'm all for them. Shops charge $200 a flat rate hour for jobs and pay these guys $15 to $30. It's abysmal. They can afford to pay people what they are worth. Every business can. Story 13. TV film I worked in the industry. Production is down 7% worldwide. North American production hubs such as Los Angeles, New York, New Mexico, Atlanta, Toronto, and Vancouver have been dead since the strikes of 2023. Fewer commercials being shot as advertisers turn to influencers to sell their products. Streaming doesn't make money, linear TV is dying, and box office is literally hit or miss, which is why it's a string of reboots and sequels as studios are afraid to spend big on new IP, only to have it fail. They go with what's familiar. People claim they want original, and then either don't go see original or it gets review bombed for something stupid and never gets a chance. Hundreds of thousands of industry tradespeople like me, who aren't millionaires, have been out of work for over a year, and no one cares if we lose our jobs, and many are rooting for it. Story 14. Maybe a surprise, but much of the tech industry is in a failing spot, or at least on the decline. Especially in commodity tech, app dev, web dev, people just don't want to spend money right now. In larger tech companies, we've seen huge layoffs year over year. Google, Intel. Also, everybody and their brother wants their own AI-focused tech startup. So the mid-sized companies' clients are being scalped. The AI bubble is likely to burst soon, though maybe not as spectacularly as the dot-com bubble. We're going to see many places who are pushing AI as a trend go out of business. The silver lining is that the IT side of tech is stronger than ever, with companies needing continued support in the digital age. Story 15. I work in tech, and I can tell you AI hasn't done crap to our hiring, or any other company I know, regardless of what some brain-dead CEO might say. No, what's really killing entry-level jobs at my company and elsewhere is the fact that companies were forced to learn how to effectively work remote during the pandemic. They took that experience and started a new wave of outsourcing to nearshore LATAM countries for like a third of what they pay our US devs. Unlike the last time tech firms outsourced in the early 2000s, it's working. Why? These folks share our time zones, they communicate well, they ask questions when they need clarification, and honestly, though we probably could hire cheaper from India, the rate we pay gets us pretty crap decent developers from Latin America. I don't like it, it's still short-sighted. US companies do need experienced devs to review PRs and run the teams, and those devs don't just magically appear with a decade of experience. They have to be trained up from somewhere. If AI is hurting junior devs, it's hurting them when they try to use it during our interviews. I rolled my eyes the other day watching ChatGPT scroll by in the reflection of this dude's glasses. Poor guy fell to pieces when it wasn't giving him a workable solution to our non-LeetCode code programming question. I don't want to be all kids these days, but a lot of them are leaning way too hard on the output of flawed LLMs. Story 16. AI. Or at least I think it will become the next .com crash. There is a lot of hype around AI. People are talking about it. Marketers are doing cartwheels singing the praises of their company's latest low-quality AI solution. They're trying to shove AI in your face. But how many of these companies are actually making money with it? Besides Nvidia, that is. They are like selling shovels and picks to the gold miners. Story 17. The way these tech companies work is the huge venture capital firms throw money into as many promising ideas as possible, because they only need a few to make it big to cover the losses of the others. You never truly know if the disruptor is an actual disruptor, or they're just fraudsters until you've invested, and either burned all that money or made it back tenfold. What happens is that these companies get of cash, operate at a loss for years, all the while they grow as big as possible. Then once the market has finished its Darwinistic purge and rooted out the few good players, those companies begin to start cutting back and focusing on where they make money so they can finally make a profit. They still have a customer base, who will begrudgingly still pay higher prices. A good example is Lyft. Uber used to pay really well in the 2010s and relatively cheap, but then they began growing their cut of each ride. Story 18. Full-service restaurants are struggling. Obviously, COVID wreaked havoc on the hospitality industry. Sit-down restaurants eventually came back. The problem, 90% of the skilled workforce did not. Instead, the industry workers all went off to drive Ubers. Those with DUIs, the majority, I believe, just locked their doors, sat down, and never left the house again. Restaurateurs are notoriously greedy, bordering on tyrannical and often oblivious to the amount of labor that goes into making their operations functional. They just want the money machine to fire back up a sap. This means doors open for dinner and asses in seats. Don't care how, just get it done. I've been a fine dining GMC masochist for too many years. As complaint receptacle for owner, employee, guest, valet, etc., the job can be trying during the best of times. Needless to say, the post-COVID era was a blurred nightmare, just drunken, drug-fueled flying circus pandemonium. The apocalypse could be nigh. Privately owned restaurants will not close, so being severely understaffed certainly wouldn't be enough to turn away paying customers. Chaos ensues. All of the prep work and cooking duties of 3 chefs all fell on the one who returned. Dishwashers suddenly became line cooks, while still maintaining the dish tank, pitiful hourly rate. Fine dining servers who are trained to attend 2 to 3 table sections or dividing a 30-table floor plan between two people. Bussers became the universal placeholders. Hey kid, drop the bus stub, you're a bartender. Once you close down bar, presto, you're a janitor. Everyone busting ass, just trying their best to keep the guests happy. Their livelihood literally rests in the palms of irate diners, whose expectations are the only thing not in short supply. Looking for morale? We 86 feet that crap back in June 2019. Welcome to Thunderdome. Story 19. Haha. Like 90% of the posts here are industries that literally everyone knows is struggling just as much as these posts say they are. But here's one few know: cycling. Bike makers ran out of supply during COVID demand, and then when supply returned post-COVID, the demand wasn't there. And the part most don't know about is, the industry was already on the downfall before COVID as theirs changed. Folks wanted e-bikes, not actual bikes. Plus cyclists willing to drop $10,000 plus on a decent piece of carbon are being killed off by lazy, texting, sleepy, or just evil car drivers. Because of this, some cyclists are skipping across bike spectrums from road to gravel to mountain biking, but the mega high margin road bike demand is on the decline. This downfall has swallowed up multiple brands already and threatens the entire industry as folks just straight up aren't biking as a recreational hobby anymore. Sad to see. And coincidentally, this is happening while the human race's greatest cyclist ever, Pogacar, is making the entire professional circuit, made up of the greatest cyclists in the world, look like JV amateurs with how effortlessly he pedals. It's truly inhuman what he's doing, and quite a spectacle to behold. And, if not for cycling's past dopers like Lance Armstrong ruining the sport for decades now, it would absolutely bring more folks into cycling. But alas, the doping has ruined any interest. Story 20. I'm a former telecommunications worker, building the backbone copper and fiber optic networks from central offices to the home and all points in between. My career was erased by big corporations hiring lowest bidder contractors. They, for the most part, have low skill and even less concern for proper maintenance of facilities. Watched my industry take pride in building things right, with proper maintenance, service to customers, to absolute dog crap. The industry itself may not be struggling due to obscene prices we pay for communication services, but as a career option, don't waste your time.